Hello everyone. Well, getting ready to start doing some finish work on the fretboard. As you can see, everything glued up nicely. It is very tight all the way down. No gaps, at least none that I can see at this point. I'm very happy. And so today the goal is to cut all the fret slots, to glue in all the inlays, maybe get some sand off the rest of the lacquer, do the final shaping on the neck, possibly get a coat of Danish oil on today. That's the goal. Don't know if I'm going to get there or not, but I'm going to do my best. Okay, so I got all the fret grooves cut. I even cut up here where the nut is going to be located, because my plan is to saw some of this out and so I can get it as nice and flat as possible. One thing I do have something special I want to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick a pickup in here temporarily. Okay, you can see the height of the pickup ring compared to the height of the fretboard. Now the fretboard's not going to be quite that high, but it is going to sit higher than the pickup ring. So one of the things I want to do is I want to draw a line across here, which I have to use both hands to do that. I want to draw a line across here and then sand at an angle down to that line. So I'll probably just measure out here about halfway between the fret and the end and just draw a secondary line and then sand that line off. Then when I sand the radius of the fretboard, it should leave just a little bit of a curve there, which I think will look pretty neat. So I'll have to get started on that. So I can see the line quite clearly. I want to find the halfway point. So we're 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to need 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go up to 3/8. Okay, so now I've got those two lines drawn. It's time to break out the old air grinder and do some grinding. I have to be really careful and keep the RPMs down on this because it can eat through material real fast. So it was that quick. I'm already to the line, so I'm going to put a finer grit pad on this thing. Something that doesn't cut quite as quick. I have this old pad here. It's a little bit finer grit, but it's also a little bit worn. So it doesn't cut quite as quick. I'm going to make it a little bit smoother. there. It's got a nice angle on it, nice taper. It's going to taper down. Let's see, get it focused in there a little bit so you can see the angle on it. And then when I sand the radius on the fretboard, that should leave a little bit of a curve there. Okay, so I have everything secured, and I have a special drill bit made specifically for wood, and I have a piece of tape on it, as you can see, so I can see how deep I want to drill. And I have the tape set just a little bit shallow of how deep I need to drill for the inlays. So what I'm going to do before I do any drilling is I'm actually going to tap. I'm going to use this brass hammer so it won't damage the drill bit, and just tap a little punch hole for each inlay. I want to remove the inlay so I don't lose any of them. Find the center point and do a little tap. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and stick the bit in the drill, start drilling these out. Okay, the holes are all drilled, but as you can see, the inlays won't work because they're oval. I'm going to have to center the inlay over the hole and then take the pencil and draw around it, and then I'll take a die grinder and oval the hole out and glue the inlays in one at a time. That's okay if they don't sit exactly flush, because when I sand the neck down, the inlays will be leveled out with the fretboard. So right now I just need to, and it's okay if it's gapped a little bit, because when I sand the fretboard, dust from the walnut, I'll try to do all the sanding while the glue is still wet, and the dust from the sanding will actually get in and around the inlay, and it'll look nice and tight. Okay, I've gotten the fretboard nice and smooth. I'm just going to take these beads, center them over the holes one at a time, and mark out the oval. Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to have to make sure I stay off of the line. I'm going to use this die grinder, this Dremel bit, to open the hole up so it fits, but I'm going to have to make sure I leave the line. And then what I'll do is I'll just do one inlay at a time, and once I get it to the right depth, I'll go ahead and just glue it in, and then I'll move on down to the next. I'm going to start at the 24th fret and move up. Okay, did a lot of sanding on this. Still have a few areas that have a little bit of lacquer on it, like right up in here and there. And down at the base of the neck, which I'm gonna have to get a different sander for that. But all in all, everything is so far turning out very nicely. Should be able, keep going the way things are now, should be able to get a coat of Danish Oil on this soon. This is actually the 4th finish that this guitar has actually had on it. When I first built it, I put water-based polyurethane on it. I was not happy at all with it. It was really blotchy, it looked horrible. So I sanded it all off and put a tung oil finish on it, which looked better, but I was trying to get the tung oil to do something that it wasn't designed to do. And so I wasn't completely happy with it, so I sanded that off. And so then I went to put a lacquer finish on it. And I was mostly happy with the lacquer finish up until I started noticing that it was, as it was curing, it was kind of shrinking around the grain, and it was just kind of looking a little rough. That, and also I started playing around with Danish Oil on some cigar box guitar necks and loved how it looked. And so that's why I want to do Danish Oil on this so badly. I didn't really go into the full reasoning for why the fretboard was in the wrong thickness, but when I first built the guitar, I tried to radius the fretboard by hand. I tried, well, not necessarily by hand, but by like random orbit sanders and die grinders and stuff like that, and I tried to eyeball it. It did not work. So I broke down and actually bought a radius sanding board. And then, of course, when I had to sand it down that time, it made the fretboard a little bit too thin. So right now, this fretboard is about perfect. And when I radius it, it's really going to be nice. And it's setting down really nice and flush all the way down. So I'm just ecstatic. I can't wait to be playing this again. But so far, everything is going to plan. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually radius this fretboard. Well, I'll take that back. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the lacquer off. To do that, I'm going to have to use a die grinder and a Dremel bit, and we'll get that rest of that lacquer off with that. And then I'll radius that fretboard. And then if I like how everything is going at that point, I'm going to do some more sanding with the random orbit sander. I'll put a fresh pad on there, nice and fine, and get this thing ready to accept some Danish Oil. The first coat of Danish Oil, well, actually the first couple coats, all I'm going to do is just put on there, let it soak in really good and wipe it off. And then after that, I'll be putting the coat of Danish Oil on and actually wet sanding it with the Danish Oil. And that should bring the wood itself up to a really lustrous shine. And it should be really smooth and silky. So really can't wait. I'm really happy with the way this is turning out so far. The guitar's at the right thickness, the fretboard's at the right thickness. It feels good even now, even before the fretboard is radiused or the edges are rolled over. It's already feeling good. And so everything is just turning out exactly the way I want it. Hope it keeps going this way. So this is the bit I'm going to be using on my die grinder. I got to be careful because this thing was made for Dremel. And of course the die grinder is a lot faster, a lot more powerful. I've actually had these things blow up on me before using the die grinder, so I had to keep the RPMs low. But they work pretty good. So from time to time you gotta clean it off because the lacquer kind of gums up the sander. It's a long process dealing with lacquer. It just gums that sander up real fast. But once you're down to bare wood, it's okay. And I've got more disc that I'll put on there after I'm down to bare wood, and I'll go over it again. One thing I have thought about doing is buying a new tremolo for the guitar. Think about putting an original Floyd Rose on it. Might as well upgrade while I got it apart. Something I want to take the time to show you. If you look at the back of the neck, I don't know, I'm trying to get it to where you can see it. But look at the back of the headstock. You might be able to see a little bit of line. And that is because, I don't know if you can see it in there or not. That is because when I first built it, I accidentally sanded the headstock a little bit too thin. So I had to glue the piece onto the back. See what's going on there? It's getting all gummed up and lacquer again. Got the new sandpaper in place. Now I gotta be really careful again, because this one's not gummed up, it'll cut quick. I think that's about the best I can get it with this sander. Now I'll go over the whole thing with a random orbit sander. And there's some areas I'm going to sand by hand, but we're about ready. Oh, I'm sorry, before I do that, before I do any finish sanding, I'm going to go ahead and sand that radius on here. Okay, I have this radius sanding block from Stu Mac. It's a 14-inch radius. And I'm just going to take some 40 grit belt sandpaper and just wrap around it like that, just to rough in the radius of it, because there's a lot of sanding that's got to happen. I want to get it down as quickly as I possibly can. Sorry, it's really important to keep it good and straight as you can, and so you can't get in a hurry. So. Okay, the radius is looking pretty good. It is a little bit more extreme than what the block is, and that's partially because of the paper I had on there. So I'm getting ready to put some finer grit paper on, and then we'll go over this again and get that fretboard nice and smooth. And you can already see what I was talking about earlier, this curve that I wanted to happen right here. That's doing exactly what I wanted. You're going to notice that on these frets right here, you can see the slot in where the rope of the necklace used to go. I did that on purpose. I did not do it on purpose on the initial build. That happened from redoing the fretboard so many times. But I wanted to have a couple of them do that on this build, just so it still looks a little bit like the same instrument. And so I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to put some finer grit paper on and keep sanding. When I first started doing sanding, I was using this 40 grit belt. And I'm going to go up to 220 grit for this next bit. And start getting it smoothened out and start getting the radius correct. This should not take too long because taking all the meat out of it first is what I was expecting to take a really long time. That's feeling pretty good. I'm going to go get me some 400 grit to continue sanding. Okay, this is real nice and smooth now. And that's not even done sanding, because when we start putting the Danish oil, I'm going to go even finer grit, up to 1,000 grit, even 2,000 grit paper. But that's going to be all over the entire guitar. But man, that's smooth. And yeah, I'm really thrilled. All right, so time to break out the random orbit sander, start working on the entire guitar, and then we'll put some Danish oil on. I was hoping to be able to get to this point today, putting the first coat of Danish oil on. It's highly likely that this is going to show up some areas that it didn't get sanded thoroughly enough, and that's okay. That's one of the beauties of Danish oil. It's very easy to fix. So, just going to go ahead and start. We're going to put it out very liberally and just rub it in. Make sure you can see. Let it soak into the wood. Now, I can already see some areas I'm going to have to do some more sanding on. But again, that's okay. We're going to let it soak in, and then we'll wipe it off. Already happy that I made the decision to proceed with this. It just soaks into the wood so deep that it brings out a rich luster. I did the sanding a little bit better than I did. You know, like I said, I really want this stuff on thick. So I want it to just, this wood just to soak it in. Now, if you may have seen the video of my black walnut bass, I'm not black walnut, but red oak bass that I built. I did the Danish oil finish on it too, but this is going to be quite a bit different. With that, I just wanted just a, a simple kind of matte finish. Really wasn't worried about making it very shiny, but I love shiny black walnut. And so this finish is actually going to take me quite a while to apply. It's going to take me several days, if not a few weeks, to get it the way I want it. I'm going to actually put more on because this wood is soaking it up nicely. I've got it on there really thick and the wood is just soaking it in. There's actually one area that really I need to do some heavy sanding on. I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. I'm going to take care of that now. Area right here, you can still see some of the lacquer that didn't get off all the way, and a little glue joint right there. That's why I like Danish Oil so much. You can see the areas that need to be fixed and you can fix them immediately. It doesn't hurt it at all. Yeah, I'm going to put some more on there. This wood's soaking it up so much. One nice thing about the wood I use on the back, it's been curing for so long that it's real dry and it just soaks in that Danish oil. So I'm going to put that on here for a few minutes, rub it in really good, and then I'll rub it off. And I'll let it set for a few hours. Maybe even overnight before I put another coat on. I swear it's like magic what happened to black walnut with this stuff. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start wiping it off. So the oil's got like a little bit of varnish in it. And it'll actually work down into the grain and it'll seal. The next coat I put on, I'll actually use the Danish oil itself as a lubricant to wet sand it. And it's just going to start bringing this wood up to a really nice sheen. If I was as impatient as I am, it's really tempting to go ahead and throw this thing together. But I can't. Still got to do the fret work. Still got to cut out for the nut. It's very encouraging seeing this come together like this. A little spot right there. Probably a little bit of lacquer that hasn't come off yet. Soak it up and it's gone. My goal for today is complete. Of course, that headstock is still lacquered. It has not been damaged at all. I can turn around and show you where the Danish oil is. And it looks really good. First coat is kind of a matte finish, which I was expecting. But future coats will be polished. There's a whole polishing procedure that has to be followed, and I'm very happy with that.